What's up, all you Minties? Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, and join me today for your advanced look at the Star Wars Legends Rise of the Sith Omnibus from Marvel Comics. So, let's get started. Before getting started, I want to give a huge thank you to David Gabriel and the folks at Marvel for sending us an advanced copy of this omnibus. This omnibus is due out in the direct market and the book market on February 8th. So there's been a little bit of a delay. It was supposed to come out this month in January, but it looks like it's now coming out in February. So hopefully no more delays. Here we have the direct market cover. This cover is provided by Hugh Fleming. And then on your left-hand side is the standard edition cover provided by Ramon Bachs. Both of these, again, will be available on February 8th, but direct market cover only available at your local comic book store or places like cheapgraphicnovels.com, Walt's Comic Shop, Dying Breed Collectors, In-Stock Trades, Organic Price Books, those type of stores. And the other thing to notice is the difference in the spine. You have an image of Darth Maul on the spine of the direct market cover and an image of Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Jinn in the standard edition cover. So there is a difference in the spine as well. Now let's go back and look at this cover here. Star Wars Rise of the Sith Legends, with this amazing image of Darth Maul with his lightsaber going on top of the logo of Star Wars. I dig that. The Star Wars logo here with Rise of the Sith on the spine, and again, Darth Maul down there. This looks like to be a movie picture though, and the Marvel Omnibus logo up here. And then the back of the book, A Shadow Falls Across the Galaxy. And then you have covers from the comics that are collected in here, and then just artwork from the comics in here. The Disney logo, Lucasfilm, and Marvel logo. Book retails for $125. Let's look at this under the dust jacket. The art on the board is that of Jan Duursema from the Darth Maul miniseries, which is collected in here. So that's one thing we're going to be talking about here in a second, is what's collected in here. Take a look at the artwork and some of the stories that are in here. So let's go ahead and get this opened. We have some end paper here, black end paper, this amazing image of Darth Maul, and then this image from episode 1. Here are all the credits, and there are a lot of credits in this particular book. A lot of probably familiar names that you have come to know over the years. Here's your table of contents, what's collected in here, and what page you can find them in. And then Rise of the Sith, explaining when these stories take place and what's happening during these particular stories. So the most important thing to note right now, before I talk about the contents, is that this is part of the Legends line. Legends are non-canon stories now, according to Disney and Lucasfilm. There were stories that were written outside of the Star Wars canon, what's considered canon now. So these were originally published by Dark Horse Comics. So all those stories that Dark Horse wrote and told are not in continuity anymore. However, like I always say, it doesn't matter. The stories were printed, you read them, you loved them. They exist, and they take place in continuity. It all really depends on the individual. Some people grew up with the original Marvel comics, some people grew up with the Dark Horse comics, and some people are reading the Star Wars comics for the first time because of the new Marvel comics. So I really think it depends on the perspective. Same thing goes with the novels. Like, a lot of the novels are not in continuity according to Lucas and Disney, but I think it's really up to the individual to decide, you know what, I really like these stories, they really did take place. So I do want to get that out of the way. This is part of the Legends, again, originally published by Dark Horse Comics, and right around the time that the first movie was coming out. So this collects, there's a lot of stuff in here. Star Wars Jedi: The Dark Side, 5-issue miniseries, Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi, The Aro Orient Express, 2-issue miniseries, Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon Jinn Last Stand on Ord Mantell, that's the 3-issue miniseries. The Jedi Council Act of War 4-issue miniseries. Star Wars, the 1998 series, issues 0 through 6. Darth Maul miniseries, all 4 issues. The Star Wars Episode 1, the comic book adaptation of The Phantom Menace. You have the half issue, and you have issues 1 through 4. Episode 1, Anakin Skywalker. Episode 1, Queen Amidala. These are all just one-shots. Qui-Gon Jinn, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and then material from Star Wars Tales 1, 3, 5, 7, 9 through 10, 13 through 14, 20, and 24. The material is just about sometimes 6 to like 8 to 10 pages, so it's not single issues. But that is a lot of content for this particular book. It has right at 1,000 pages. And I want to say that these stories were originally published, like I said, by Dark Horse in single issue format, and then Dark Horse published these smaller size omnibus formats, which were the softcover editions. And then Marvel, whenever they got the rights a few years ago, printed these in epic format. I think there were 2 of them. And I've never read any of these stories. I'm familiar with Star Wars because of the movies, and then I did read some of the original Marvel stuff, but I didn't really get big into it, and I'll be honest with you, until the new Marvel series with Jason Aaron's run. And holy crap, Knights of the Old Republic was one of my favorite reads last year, or Old Republic as the omnibus is known. So, let's talk about these particular stories. All of this takes place right before episode 1. Some of them a few years, like 5 to 6 years before episode 1, and some of them months right before episode 1. The stories vary in here. The first miniseries is called The Dark Side, and it's all about one of Qui-Gon Jinn's apprentice named Thanatos, and how he becomes lured to the dark side. And this has artwork by Mahmoud Asrar, who I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with now because the guy's blown up, drawing a lot of things over at Marvel Comics. Then you have the this one's a little, I don't know why I have a hard time saying this word, the Aura Orient Express. And it's a take on the Murder Mystery Orient Express story. So that's practically what this is. But this showcases the relationship between Qui-Gon Jinn and his apprentice, Obi-Wan Kenobi. We get a couple of other miniseries in here, like this one here. And this is The Last Stand on Ord Mantell, starring Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan. And this miniseries just follows the 2 characters investigating an assassination attempt that leads them into just a standoff against other villains in this particular story. I like this particular story here more than the other 2. Then we get to this story right here, which is the Jedi Council Acts of War. I think this was one of my favorite stories because this shows a lot of the side of the council, the Jedi Council, and how they deal with atrocities happening across the galaxy. Because, you know, they're Jedi Knights. They're supposed to be sent out to keep the peace. They're keepers of the peace. And this is, by the way, we're 4 miniseries in, and we still haven't seen any Rise of the Sith yet. I think this is the one where we first get to see what this book is trying to do. And maybe it wasn't planned. I'm not sure how these books were originally coming out, in what order. But this is the first time we do see Palpatine, Darth Sidious, and his apprentice, Darth Maul. And of course, Darth Maul is very much like the movie. He doesn't have that many lines, and, you know, he tries to question a little bit of his master's decisions. He wants to show the Jedi who he is. He wants to take them out, and, of course, Darth Sidious is patience. That's pretty much it. We do get to see Micah here, a new character that was introduced through this series. At least for me, I haven't read any of the novels, so I'm not sure if he was introduced in any of the novels or not. But you do get to see a lot of characters shine through here. A lot of characters that didn't even have any lines in the movies, that were just part of the Jedi Council. And that's the other thing to keep in mind, is when these stories originally came out, they came around the time that the movie was coming out, or right before the movie. So I'm sure, you know, a lot of the writers and artists really didn't know exactly who these characters were supposed to be. I'm sure they were giving some kind of guidelines, who to do stories about, who they can't do stories about, and they must have followed those guidelines. But I think it was pretty interesting to see this particular story happen before the movie came out. At least that's the way I read it. I could be wrong, but it does predate the events of the movie. Whether it came out before the movie or not, the comic series, I'm not sure. And then we get this particular story here. This is really cool. This little segment right here, these 2 pages, was part of the Star Wars Zero, Prelude to Rebellion. And these were original motion webcomics on the internet. That's crazy. That was a teaser for the Star Wars comic series. So Star Wars in 1998 came out with his own ongoing series. And I have to say, this was a weird start. It does feature this character right here that a lot of people saw in the movie. He did have a lot of speaking parts, more than most of the other Jedi in the Jedi Council, and that's Ki-Adi-Mundi. And this story is pretty much his story about how he became a Jedi Knight. And there's backup stories here from the first 6 issues. They're also collected in here. This, to me, feels like the most 90s story in this particular collection. And that might have something to do with Anthony Wynn's artwork. I don't know, I got a lot of 90s vibe from this particular story, more so than the other ones, even though they were all written and drawn around the same couple of years. But this is the type of artwork. He's the Conehead character, and so are his people. I hate using that term because of the actual Coneheads. And then, yes, this was my favorite story. I do have another surprising story that I enjoyed from this collection. But this, let's talk about this. Star Wars Darth Maul, the 4-issue miniseries written by Ron Marz and drawn by Jan Duursema. And Jan's artwork I was familiar with from the pages of X Factor. She had this bold look to her art. Like, these characters were very masculine and just super muscular. So it was interesting to see her draw this, because this was only a few years after drawing X Factor and how much her art had evolved. And I'm not sure if she's still drawing comics or not. I haven't seen her stuff. But this is just basically Emperor Palpatine, Darth Sidious, giving the order to Darth Maul to take out this crime syndicate known as the Black Sun. So for 4 issues, Darth Maul kicks the crap out of every person in this crime syndicate known as the Black Sun. Darth Sidious gives him a ship, and he goes across just hacking away all these people. Some of them beg for mercy. Some of them think they're badasses that could take on Darth Maul. And he's like, I'm Maul. And much like the movie, he doesn't really have a lot of lines. And, this was so damn good. I really enjoyed this series. I think this was the highlight for me. Because honestly, this much of the book, I was like, man. Because there are some of my viewers, and I completely respect their decision, that will not read the new Marvel Star Wars comics, because their Star Wars is strictly Dark Horse comics. But man, there's a lot of good comics you're missing out on, a lot better than the stuff I read here. But by the time I got here, I was like, okay, this is the kind of stuff I wanted. This is the kind of stuff I've been hearing about, because for the longest time I kept hearing, from some people, not everybody, that, hey, the Dark Horse comics were some of the best. And I agree with that when we're talking about something like The Old Republic. But when reading this, I don't know if it was the movie, because the movie I was 50-50 on. Episode 1, I went to see it 3 times. I went to see it here. Let's keep going. I went to see it opening night. Then speaking of the movie, we actually have the comic book adaptation of the movie, which is identical to the movie. It leaves out a couple of parts. It really doesn't add anything. What adds things are these particular stories right here, these one-shots. So this is Anakin Skywalker. And what I was saying is that, to me, the movie was 50-50. I went to see it opening night. It was insane. I had never stood in line for hours waiting on a movie to open. I didn't even get to see it with my friends because it wasn't assigned seatings back then. I sat with a bunch of strangers. Some of them didn't even speak the same language I did. And it was one of the best movie experiences I've ever had. Just enjoying a movie, because, this was Star Wars. It was coming back out in the movie theaters. The last time I had seen Star Wars was my dad, Return of the Jedi, and that was like subtitles in Spanish. So I got to keep asking my dad questions. But, this was my time to go see Star Wars at the movie theater, and I was just blown away. Watching it the second time, I thought, I kind of like half of this movie. The other half did not work for me. And I feel the same about this book, and I wonder if that's because of the way that I feel about the movie. So, let's go back to this, though, because this is not a review of the book itself. It's just an overview of it. So we have one-shots of Anakin Skywalker. This all takes place right around the same time in Tatooine, when you have the characters of Qui-Gon Jinn and Queen Amidala show up with Jar Jar Binks. Actually, this leads right into that. And then we have this story right here, titled Queen Amidala. Even though this is more of a Jar Jar Binks / Queen Amidala adventure, how they go get this battery. Then we have the Qui-Gon Jinn story in here. And it kind of fills out a lot of these characters more than the comic book adaptation and more than the movie did. I really like this particular one about, the Obi-Wan Kenobi one shot, because it was like the movie from his perspective. It was his take on things that were going on at the time. And then we get some Star Wars. I believe this is what kicks off the Star Wars Tales. You get the story of Mace Windu here and how he ends up with his particular color of lightsaber. There's another Mace Windu story. Not this one here. This one's okay. But the one I really like, basically because of the artwork, is this. This art reminds me of Mobius. The color schemes and everything remind me of Mobius. I really like this. There's a lot of little short stories in here. Like this is Yadol's Tale. This is a character that looks like Yoda from the movies. I don't think she even had a speaking role. But here you get to find out a little bit about her. This is all about the living force here. But the one I wanted to talk about, and all the covers are here. This is how Okay, this one's kind of silly. This is how Darth Maul ends up using his bow staff lightsabers. Why he does that? Yeah, you can find out for yourself why. There's another Darth Maul story about a young Darth Maul. This is about the bounty hunter. And this story right here. There's a couple of stories here that feature Jar Jar Binks that I find really interesting. Because much like most people my age that went to see Star Wars Episode 1, Jar Jar Binks was one of those characters that was part of the movie that we didn't enjoy. But in this, man, some of these are like heartbreaking, especially the story about his dad. Here, let's get to it. Here's another story with Micah while we're looking for that. Yeah, George R. Binks. This is a tragic story, and the way that it's written and drawn, I've really dug this. Wasn't expecting to enjoy this out of most of the book, really. And it is a very, very short story. It's not long at all. Then we get some Stan Sakai in here. Then the Force Fiction, which I guess is like a take on Pulp Fiction. And then your covers. So you have the variant covers, and most of the variant covers are like movie covers. So you see the actors reprising their role, probably from movie stills, not really taking pictures for Dark Horse Comics. But like I said, yeah, these were all published during the Dark Horse era of Star Wars. There is a Kiya Asamiya cover here. I love Kiya Asamiya, one of my favorite artists. These are the editor notes here, and then the Wizard Magazine cover. That is a cool cover. Acts of War. Some sketches behind the scenes. There is, I think it's an introduction here to some of the collected editions from that Dark Horse got to publish. Covers to the trade paperbacks. This is from Wizard Magazine. Phantom Menace hardcover. Yeah, right here. Kiya Asamiya. Silent Mobius, Theme Detectives, and Chuck Austin's X-Men. And then some artwork here from Episode 1. Now, this book was printed at the iMac printer. Let's look at this binding. 1,000 pages. Not that big of an eye, but we've seen worse. We've seen a lot better, too. The paper quality is thin, but not as thin as the Aliens Omnibus Volume 2. I know it's a hard comparison to make, but I go by what I just read last, and I remember thinking, man, that's got thin paper like Volume 1. But it is thinner than the Donnelly printer, for example. But as far as the book opening, the way that it lays over with the spread pages, I'll just go back to these pages right here, because there's not really a lot of spread pages towards the beginning miniseries, so wanted to showcase something that we just saw a little bit ago. As you can tell, there is minimal gutter loss, not a lot, but I know that some people want to know. But that, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing this book, don't forget to check out our sponsor, CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online home for brand new graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They pride themselves on packaging your books so they arrive safely in an excellent condition, as well as prompt and helpful service. Check out the bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. CGN is excited to announce that they are now taking pre-orders. They're making it easier for you to ensure that you don't miss out on the hottest releases. CGN is currently running a special promotion for your mentees. If you're a first-time customer, let them know that you were referred by Near Mint Condition at the checkout, and you'll receive a credit for free shipping on your next order. This promotion is valid for U.S. customers only. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount and quality shipping and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content, the page count build of this particular omnibus. Let me know in the comments down below if you are picking this up, if you have the original Star Wars, the softcover omnibus edition from Dark Horse, if you ended up picking up the Epic Collections, or if you've been reading these stories since they came out and were published in the late 90s. I just want to ask your opinion, what you thought of these stories. Again, this was the Uncanny Omar. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to smash that like button, ring that bell for notifications to let you know when our videos are going live. We are on Spreadshop and on Patreon. Amazing ways to support the channel if you can do so. And more importantly, all of you, stay healthy, stay safe, much love.